That's
The dawn of a new age.
Oh my god.
Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everybody? Oh god, is that super loud? I think it is. Hey, how you doing? It is Chase. It is New Age Comics. Oh god, let me get my levels under control here. Yup, those were some loud yos. But how is everybody doing? Oh gosh. I hope you're doing awesome. I am having technical difficulties immediately upon the podcast, but I think they're resolved. And I hope you're doing awesome. I'm sure you're surprised to hear from me at the moment because I've been just like AFK, to use some gamer lingo. I've been away. I've been gone, and I've been late. And I think I've apologized for this pretty much every single time I've recorded. But this is episode 28 of the New Age Comics weekly podcast roundup, whatever you want to call it, where I just talk my poll, pretty much. I talk the comics. I talk general comic shite. And I mean, I used to be able to say that I did a whole bunch of comic talk, but now that I have assassinated the news segment, it is what it is. I don't know. The news segment, it may make a comeback someday. But, you know, right now, I think I should just focus on getting caught up on books because I got a lot of books to talk about today. I guess it's really not a lot, if I'm being honest. It's, gosh, I could count them, but it's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I only have 11 books, which I think that's pretty low. That's some low for the usual on this podcast. It's usually like 12, 15, something like that. A ton. But there are some exciting things about this poll today. I mean, I'm coming at you live, not live, but pre-recorded from my state of Nebraska. But it is 3/11. Investigate 3/11. No, it is March 11th. And what that means is, am I talking books that came out March 10th? No, I am not. I think I'm talking books that came out February 24th or something like that. So these are late. Once this episode is out, I will have 2 weeks of comics to read. And, you know, I've contemplated for a minute, like, you know, should I just read them and then just like get completely caught up and just start fresh? But no. I don't want to do that. I think it's important that I cover every week because, you know, I want to be able to say like, you know, at episode 52, I want to be able to say I have covered every single week of comic books for the last year. You know, I don't want to be like, oh, now I've technically covered a year, but I skipped a year. None of that. I'm skipping that. So we're pushing through. And, you know, I figured might as well get my thoughts out on these books for continuity's sake. I know we're all some comic fans here, so y'all should appreciate that. I've pretty much done away with most of the shit that I like to plug. Obviously, you can follow me wherever you are listening to this. And last little thing before I do get into the books, something kind of funny. So last episode, I mentioned this where I was like, hey, you know what, guys? I'm going to do a short episode today. And it was the exact opposite. It was like almost an hour. It was one of my longer episodes. But I have taken precautions this time around to ensure that this episode may be brief. You know, I heard at a convention a while ago. I never forgot this statement because I thought it sounded so cool, that brevity is the soul of wit. And that really resonated with me as someone who is not brief and someone who does not understand being any kind of concise with my thoughts. So I'm going to try and aim for some brief episodes, 20 to 30 minutes. I got some notes. I got some bullet points. The return of the notes. Some long time listeners might remember that I used to have a ton of notes. And then I was like, fuck the notes. And now the notes are back. So we'll see how that goes. But an exciting thing about this poll this week, this is a new thing. I have more indie books than I do any of my other books, any Marvel or DC books. So big indie week this last week. I'm super pumped to get into it. And you know what? Let's just dive right in. Nothing like an early morning and some coffee and some indie comics to talk about. So my first book that I have, let me set my coffee down. My first book, I got 3 I have 4 indie books. One is a Valiant comic book, and the other 3 are Image comic books. My first indie, though, that I want to talk about, let's just get the Valiant out of the way. Bloodshot number 11 with the creative team Seeley, Andreo, and Dollhouse. So it has been almost a year that this Bloodshot series has been coming out. I mean, it's on issue 11. It's been over a year because it got a pretty hefty delay. If you guys remember from the COVID fiasco, if y'all remember COVID, I don't know if y'all heard about it, but there's actually only 1 issue left of the Tim Seeley run. He's been writing it for the last 12 issues, and he is leaving after issue number 12. And weirdly enough, I guess it kind of seems like Valiant doesn't know what they're doing with this Bloodshot series, because, and this is strange, I mean, I might as well shout this out, a fellow comic commentator is going to be picking up the reins of Bloodshot, I'm pretty sure on issue 13, maybe for a few more, the comic Storian. I mean, some of y'all should know him. He's like the OG. He's been making comic content since before I was born. I don't know. I don't think that's true. But as for this issue here, like I said, 1 more issue of the Seeley run. So, kind of like a penultimate for Tim Seeley. And I really wish we could have gotten to the stuff in this issue sooner, if that makes sense. I really liked Seeley's first arc with the Burned, and then it felt like the middle. So yeah, I guess I liked the first 4 or 5, maybe 6 issues. And then it felt like the middle kind of lacked or just didn't really know what it was doing. Obviously, this run is sort of, I guess it's supposed to be kind of tailored to new readers a little bit. I know they started dropping these issues just a little bit before the movie came out, actually. And so I hope the idea with that was, hey, if you like the movie, go to your comic shop and say, hey, can I read some Bloodshot? And they're going to hand you this trade. And, I think the first story was fine with that. And even as this series unfolds, you can tell that they're incorporating elements from the movie a little bit. If y'all went and saw the movie Bloodshot, it wasn't bad. Vin Diesel, I mean, it's one of those, I don't know. It might fall into the lower tier of superhero films, but I think just as our first Valiant film, I was just giddy to see it in general. But we got a new artist on this issue. Like I said, Andreo. I'm pretty sure he's like a new artist. Like, I saw them welcoming him in some of the back matter in some of the Valiant books. So congratulations to him. I really do like his art. I think it's cool here. It has a little bit of cuteness to it, but also can accomplish like action and all that shit pretty well. As for the story here, I think it is a little sitcom-y, right? They even comment on that at some point where Bloodshot's speaking with Wilfred Wiggins or something like that, a movie character. And then this girl who has like one of these robotic enhancements, just like one of the movie characters, and literally comments like, we'd make a hell of a sitcom. And low key, you can tell that even like the superheroing shit is kind of sitcom-y. I got like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of vibes, like a serial superhero TV show, if that makes sense. I guess that's sort of a new advent in society, but those were kind of some of the vibes I get from the story. It's not bad. But then our villain here is the return of Rampage, as well as Zealot makes a return here. And these are moments that I think, maybe aren't too new reader friendly. I personally, I guess I'm the perfect example. This is my first Bloodshot run. I bought the Dwayne Swazinski. I don't know how to say his last name, but I bought the first Valiant Entertainment for some of my Valiant lore heads out there. When's Valiant rebooted, I bought their trade, haven't read it yet, but this is my first Bloodshot run. And I did not know who Rampage is or Zealot is. However, I think these are cool characters. And I really like what was going on with Rampage in this issue. He seems like a anti-Bloodshot kind of, quite literally. He's black instead of white in terms of his skin. And still's got the red dot on his chest. And it feels like Seeley approached this with like a political angle. I really liked the ending of this book where Rampage is like, it was kind of edgy. He's like cutting his arm and bleeding everywhere. And then he drapes himself in the American flag. I loved that shit. And, this is maybe a ongoing hot button conversation in comics. I like when comics get political. I just think it's neat. Obviously, it can be done poorly. but if it's done well, I say, why the fuck not? Hey, politics are a thing. I don't see why comics should shy away from them. So I like the political angle here. It looks like Rampage is taking on a new identity, Harmony. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, like I said, I wish we would have kind of gotten to this stuff sooner. I think this should have been maybe like the second arc, not exactly the third to last issue. So yeah, we'll see how the Sealy run wraps up, and then check out Comic Storian, whatever he's doing. But hey, he's given me hope. Maybe one day I can write a comic book for Valiant. Anyway, moving into our next indie book, I'm talking Crossover issue number 4, Kate Shaw and Denise, however you say it. But holy fuck, okay, Crossover has been absolutely crazy. I mean, each issue is more exciting than the next. Obviously, there are crossovers and tie-ins. That's the whole point of the... I mean, could you refer to this as an event? I think you maybe could, even though it is like an ongoing run. Regardless of whether this is like technically a comic book event or not, I mean, it feels eventful. Every issue just feels eventful. I mean, the end of the last one, we got sort of dropped as Madman, which I guess is a Image character, I'm pretty sure, that I'm personally unfamiliar with. It's New Age comics in the New Age, so I'm a New Age reader. But hey, he was kicking ass in this issue with the yo-yo and everything. I loved that. I felt like I had to show one of my homies who yo-yos. I had to be like, dude, check out this fucking splash page. I should have that displayed on the YouTube, if you will. But I mean, let's not even mince things. This comic is old, so let's just get out with it. The last page here, holy shit, Valofax, if that's how you say it. God, this sounds nerdy, but this was probably the coolest inclusion yet, in my opinion, in the run. Because if, for those that don't know, and you should know based off the little ending here, Valofax is a humongous badass sword. It's kind of like a Thor-like sword, where I think it grants you powers. There's some level of like worthiness or deservingness with the sword. And when I say Thor-like, I guess I'm referring to Mjolnir. But this is one of Kate's creations. So Kate's has written a good handful of books for Image. A lot of them have gained a decent amount of notoriety. And Valoflax appears in God Country, which is, let me just recommend that for some of y'all out there. I am looking at the trade right now on my bookshelf. It's an amazing little 6-part story that Kate's writes. It's so good. I mean, and it's Shaw too. So that's another Kate Shaw moment. So I loved seeing that at the end here. Our squad that we're following throughout Crossover, they end up seeing this sword in like this museum kind of. I mean, it was supposed to model like the Justice League's Hall of Justice or whatever. That's what I was getting from that. But I mean, it was super cool to see that sword. I can't wait to see who picks it up, like Jesus. And not only that, but Cates is just masterful with the storytelling here, because he even ties in one of the like young girl characters from God Country. And so as a reader of God Country, I was like squealing as I read that, because that's so cool. Like, I did not think I would ever see these characters again until the movie, because there is a movie coming out for all my Image book friends out there. But gosh, it was just awesome. And like I said, Madman was just super dope in this book. Donnie Cates seems to be narrating the book, which is just really funny. It's like literally Donnie is talking to us. Our villains in this book, the like religious people who fucking hate superheroes, they seem to be capturing some superheroes. And I guess I'm just like, who the fuck are they taking? That'll definitely be something we got to look out for. And last thing I want to shout out is the layout of this book is really fucking neat. I really liked the layout here. It goes story, and then they do the tease. I guess you get the first couple pages of God Country, and then you get more of the story, another like kind of cliffhanger there at the end. I thought the layout was great. Crossover is so awesome. Can't wait for issue 5. Moving into the next book, Department of Truth, issue number 6 by Tinian. Oh gosh, name incoming. Charatier and Hollingsworth. And, usually I kind of come in on Department of Truth and say, wow, Nightmare Fuel. Oh, my God. This issue featured an art switch up, obviously. If there wasn't, you would have heard me say Tinian and Simmons. But no, an art switch up happens. Charatier, gives a completely different art style, completely different one. It kind of reminded me of Darwin Cook. I'm curious what some of y'all maybe think about that comparison. I was definitely getting some Darwin Cook, I don't know, Bruce Timm sort of like cartoonish vibes maybe. But I will say I loved that art switch up. I made some like tweet jokes about this huge contrast. And some people I think took it as though I was saying I didn't care for the art. When I'm not saying that at all. I really, really like the art here. And I think the contrast between the first 5 issues and this issue is just really cool, given how stark it is. But story-wise, we're getting a ton of backup story here. I mean, we're getting sort of like the down and dirty of what happened with Lee Harvey Oswald. More specifically in connection to like what happened with how, I guess in real life, or maybe in the real life he wasn't, but he was assassinated on live TV, obviously. And we get sort of the explanation as to, well, he really wasn't. He was actually just taken into the department and given, I guess, like homework, which was sort of like reading this massive library they have. But this is a super cool vector for what the real story is here, which is sort of just like one shot in the middle of the series that I thought is really cool. I love when comics do that. They'll just like throw you a random issue that's like, hey, this one can sort of just be read on its own. I just think that's great. And our protagonist, if you could call him that, Lee Harvey Oswald, is learning about sort of the history of, I don't know what you'd call it. I guess the history of this like secret telling, if you will, dating all the way back to like Roman, and like, I think it was like 1000 like AD or something like that, like forever ago. I think, see, this is where I'm gonna expose myself as someone who does not have a grasp on history, but I believe this is around like the Enlightenment era. Maybe I'm super fucking wrong on that. But I have to give a nod to Tinian for being able to write through time like this. Clearly, I cannot even follow what's going on a day-to-day basis. So the fact that Tinian can write a story like within the year 1000 or whatever, that just seems so seamless. I just thought that was a great testament to his writing skills. And the fallout here, calendars, I guess, are fake, or time is fake. I mean, I've heard this like idea before that, you know, our calendars could be just off and no one would know. No one would give a shit, right? Because it's sort of just like we all agree on, hey, it's 2021. Then there's no reason for anyone to be in a fuss when, as we learn in this, that calendars are maybe more of a modern invention than we like to think. I mean, this is just super cool ideas, exploring just, I guess, thought, or how should I put that? Like collective thought, right? That's sort of the idea being explored here in the whole story, as well as this issue. And our friend Lee Harvey Oswald is left translating Latin, and he sees that the Illuminati means the enlightened, which is very cool, making me question my own beliefs. But that being said, into our last indie book here, I was really pumped for this one, guys. I was tweeting about this like right when it was announced. 2 Moons, issue number 1. Arkady Giangiordano and Dave Stewart are working on this. Wow. This book, I feel like maybe went under too many people's radars, if you ask me. I was tweeting about this book just in general this week, and I got a lot of people hitting me up like, yo, what is this? Tell me what this is. Here's like the elevator pitch, if you will. It is a Civil War story, which when I say that in the context of comic books, I think a lot of people want to say, oh, Captain America Civil War. And no, it is not. It is a historical Civil War tale. But I guess you would say if it took that theme and then leaned into like horror, like it's a Civil War horror story, which, I mean, if that doesn't already tickle your fancy, what the hell? But I mean, that creative team should have also raised a few eyebrows. Giangiordano, anybody? If you don't know, that is an amazing artist. He's doing the interiors here. And if you're a fan of Marvel, you should recognize some of his work because he is currently doing all the covers for Savage Avengers and the covers for Taskmaster at the moment, which in general, those are some of the greatest, coolest covers on the rack right now. So detailed. I have in my notes here that he's kind of like the new Mike Deodato. I can kind of just see some stylistic similarities in between them. But his art here is amazing. Right when I saw that he was doing an interior book, I had to fucking pick it up because his art is, I don't know, I felt like I was getting like an Alex Ross interior book. You know what I mean? Like if you saw Alex Ross was doing interiors on a book, you would fucking pick that shit up just because you're like, what? He is a cover artist first and foremost. Talking about the story a little bit here, I really liked the main character that we follow. I believe his name is Two Moons, or maybe he has some sort of, that's like kind of, I guess, his alias. I don't know if it's technically an alias or not. But one thing that's really relevant in this book is his heritage. And I guess it's not extremely relevant, but you can tell that they're going to be talking about it throughout the book. He is being plagued by some visions, some demonic visions. And at first he sees, I think, his grandfather. But I don't see, that's the thing, dude. This book is fucking with my head. I don't know if that was his grandpa or not. And then he sees one of his like compatriots as a demon later in the book. And I'll get into that in a second. But another thing that this book, I think, is striving for that is really cool and really maybe necessary, if you ask me, is the historical accuracy. In the back of the book, the author takes some time to just kind of address it. And he speaks on his experience as a writer, saying like historical accuracy and maybe fair representation is something that not only frequently eludes members of the Native American community, but also is maybe not exactly looked at all that much when it comes to Civil War tales, if any of what I'm saying is making sense. But you could tell that this book is taking a reverent historical approach, but simultaneously weaving in horror elements, which is a fine line to walk, but I like that the artist is trying to walk it. And I mean, the horror elements are very well done. So if you're just a fan of horror stuff, you couldn't give a fuck about the historical shit, I mean, still pick this up because this book is so cool. And the violence is absolutely a key element in this book. You gotta love a little bit of gore, a little bit of violence, but it's an image book and it's doing awesome. And then, I mean, the ending, I think, presents a perfect hook to just show you like, you know what, this is just a dope comic. It doesn't have to be like a comment on Civil War, the American Civil War, or it doesn't even have to really even, if you don't want it to, it doesn't even have to be a huge comment on like Native American I guess representation. You can appreciate it just as a good story. And so there's a lot of things to love about this book. You absolutely, if you slept on Two Moons, please guys, go give this book a shot. All right, just re-upped on some coffee, and I can already tell off my recording time that I'm going 40-ish minutes. At this point, obviously, some shit will get cut out, but let's bustle through the rest of this, shall we? Now I'm talking about the Marvel books that dropped this week that did not exactly connect themselves to any kind of event or anything. I got two of these books. It's actually some X books. You could call this the X Corner, and that is X-Men 18 and Wolverine issue number 10. I'm going to start with X-Men. This is written, of course, by Hickman with art in this issue by Mahmoud Asrar. I was so happy to see him back on the art here. I mean, I need to go pick up like didn't he do an X-Men book a few years ago, like X-Men Red or something like that, one of those colored books? I need to just go buy it all because I will fucking do anything to look at his art. And then of course I think Sunny Go does the colors here. So this issue is kind of a long time coming. This is the return of our Vault friends, as I refer to them in my notes, which is a long connecting element in the X-Men series. And, I would have forgot about this had me and our buddy Ian, the guy who was featured on last week's finale WandaVision podcast. Go check out my WandaVision series. If you haven't, we did a recap of each episode. But me and Ian, one of the guests there, we also did an X-Men podcast, which was covering the first volume of the Hickman run, like the first 6 issues or something. A really fun conversation. We did it like fucking forever ago. So check that out if you're also interested. But I think it was like issue 4 or 5 or 6 or something that we see X-23, Darwin, and Synch, is it Sink or Cinch? I'm pretty sure it's Sink. Go into the vault, the like vault where the children of the vault come from. It's basically this place with like, God, just like rapid time acceleration. And here we get the return. So this is something I was thinking about ever since we really did that review. And I gotta say, this is in no way a disappointment. I thought this follow-up was fucking perfect. I mean, we get a big ass badass fight in this book between our ex-goons that go in and the children of the vault. Some blood is shed. That's all I might say, but some people get clapped. I will I will leave it there. And there's some interesting things going on in this book in terms of progression for our characters. Sink seems to get like a power upgrade. And they kind of talk about it here in one of the like little, I don't know, what would you call them? Like book pages? That's really not what they are, but like these data pages. These things that are in every single X-Men book. But it seems like he's either getting his powers enhanced or some sort of secondary mutation. I'm not really sure. Darwin, one of my favorite X-Men. I love Darwin ever since I read The Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire. Great old book, by the way. A great old Brubacher book, I will add. In this book, he's really not doing a whole lot other than drinking a little bit of water, which I guess is an example of his powers, you know. But another funny thing too in this book, I tweeted about this as well, that Sink and X-23, they seem to got some feelings. They have a little bit of shit going on between them. I mean, X-23 is the Dom in this case, right? Because Sink seems very sub. I will move on. The ending here, huge cliffhanger, big boom, as I have in my notes. And I hope to God that the next arc here is just all about these guys. Like honestly, I thought they were going to do something where they would do like their own series, you know, like they do, I don't know, the Children of the Vaults or the Vault Explorers or some shit where I just follow these three. And I was so down for that. But if we can't get that, I will take just a little bit of an arc here. You know what I mean? So very great follow-up to this connecting theme. But for the last X book, we got Wolverine issue number 10, Percy, Kubert, and Martin. I have personally been loving everything Benjamin Percy has been doing on the X side. I kind of can't wait to see what he does afterwards. You know what I mean? But in this book, Wolverine is trying to save Maverick, and it's going all right. As of the last issue, I think it was issue number 9. Yes. I mean, obviously it was issue number 9. I was confusing it with issue number 350, which was really issue number 8. But that's all I'm saying is that the Maverick arc right now has been going on for a second. And I'll just say this issue is fun. It's a awesome solo story, just following Wolverine. We get to see some ass kicking. And I mean, there's really nothing more to it. That's all you can love. I think some of these X books that follow singular X characters are kind of in an interesting place in the whole Dawn of X shit. Granted, I haven't been reading Cable, so I guess I can't draw a huge comparison. But this Wolverine book has been interesting because Logan has kind of been just doing his own thing, you know, and I guess that's very Logan of him, but he's kind of just been exploring, I don't know, doing his own thing. He's leaving Krakoa. He's coming back, and he is still very pro Krakoa, as we see in this book, but it's just Wolverine's in an interesting place, but I love how Percy is handling that. There are some fun scenes here with the like collector, which is not the elder, I have to specify. But I love how Percy can use some like small moments to actually say big things about characters. And here I'm referring to a scene where Maverick and Wolverine, they're going to like burn the whole collector's collection, you know, and Wolverine's like looking at all these like superhero artifacts. And he's talking about like, you know, sometimes you have to just let go, like just letting go of the past. And you wouldn't expect like this deep writing moment out of this just like random story or this random scene. But then all of a sudden you turn the page and you get caught in the feelings because you're just like, Logan, oh my God. And I love how Percy can do that. He's such a fucking skilled writer. You can tell that he approaches these bitches like books. God, I just love it. The CIA gets involved in this book, which is cool. But then Maverick, and I'm getting into spoilers, he seems to be kind of a traitor. He's treacherous. I don't know if that's the right word, but he's working both sides. He is definitely a merc first and an ally second. So that's very interesting. Percy is setting shit up to come through later. But speaking of Kubert, Adam Kubert's doing the art here. Oh my God, just loved his art. The paneling in this book specifically was fucking killer. It's like he would draw a page that's like a spread, but then he would panel out specific like parts. I don't know. It's just so cool. Kubert has really been doing something interesting as fuck on the art here, even though he's only been showing up like here and there when it comes to the Wolverine art. I love when he's here. And the last thing I wanted to point out, more just praise for Percy as a writer. He's making Logan tread a very interesting line, because Logan was trying to pitch Krakoa to Maverick. I'm not exactly sure what Maverick's mutant ability is, but he is a mutant, and he was trying to pitch Krakoa to him like, dude, you can come here, we can all relax, we can go to the Green Lagoon or whatever. And I love to this point because Maverick is like listening to this from Logan and saying like, what the fuck happened to you? Like me and you come from a time where we didn't need shit. It was just us versus the world. And now that's just the opposite with Logan. He is down with Krakoa, as they called it in this issue. He's drinking the Kool-Aid. And I mean, it's just so cool as a reader because we've been following Logan on this journey. And so maybe it hasn't hit us yet how strange this is for Logan to be swearing to like Queen and country, quote unquote, if you will. So I just love that Percy is, like I said, big character moments out of small scenes. Just fucking great. I've loved this issue of Wolverine. Some amazing X books this week. I'll be right back after this quick break. Support for this podcast is brought to you in part by... Hey friends, it's Chase with New Age Comics, and I'm here to tell you about an upcoming comic that you cannot miss out on, Sin Eater. Sin Eater has everything you could want from a comic book. Written by John Simmons, it has tons of action, an awesome twist of religious mythology, and a plot that hooks you in and leaves you wanting more. And the art by Marcos Almeida and Icao de Oliveira has tons of character and just pops the way it needs to. You can back issues 1 and 2 of Sin Eater on Kickstarter.com. Just search Sin Eater by John Simmons and you can see their pledge rewards. They have a huge range of options from digital to physical to virgin and metal covers. The link to the Kickstarter is in the description and the project ends March 25th. Trust me, friends, you won't want to miss out on this one. All right, now we're kind of in the second half of the books that I have to cover here. Just a few more sections, just a few more books, don't you worry. But sticking with Marvel, we got one King in Black book this week, or I did, which was King in Black, Return of the Valkyries, issue number 3, written by Aaron and Gronbeck, when drawn by Vaqueva, colored by Bon Villain. So I think this Return of the Valkyries tie-in has probably been one of the most interesting tie-ins for King in Black, if I had to say. And I use that word specifically. Very interesting. I thought that this would include more Sentry. You know what I mean? Obviously, given the events of the first King in Black book, where Sentry gets just absolutely dumpstered. I figured, and this book kind of set up, that this story would be about his revival. And hey, maybe it is, but I will say this, that it feels a little clickbait because Sentry has been kind of sparingly in the book. But, it kind of makes a little sense. He was featured, I guess some part of him was featured in Thunderbolts. So maybe they're kind of weaving like a multi-series kind of arc with Sentry, which I don't mind. I actually really like that. It makes the event feel connected. It makes some of the tie-ins feel worth it. But that being said, even though I felt clickbaited about lack of Sentry content, you still get some in this book. He's grappling with revival, but then the story that you do get is actually really great. And that story is badass Asgardian women, which very cool. Obviously, it is the Return of the Valkyries. And that being said, too, it's Jason Aaron talking Thor. working in the Thor mythos. So there's a lot of lore. There's a lot of fucking lore here. And again, New Age comics, I'm a New Age reader. And a lot of this lore went over my head. There's a lot of parties involved, man. If you get that movie reference, let me know. But I really do like a lot of the elements going on here. I think a lot of the Valhalla and Van Holheim, like, Jesus, these are so many like places that I'm just fully unaware of. But there's this old woman like weaving the fabric of realities. Very cool. And then I'm going to butcher some Asgardian names here. Sorry to any Nords in the chat, but Hildegard. Hildegarde, Jesus, I think Heidelgard. She's talking about her like past as a girl learning to slay dragons, which is a really cool writing point on Aaron and Gronbeck's part, because it's like, yes, she learned how to slay like the actual mythical dragons, but now she's slaying like goo symbiote dragons. It's just really cool. And then we're also getting, I think, Donnie, an X-Men. I'm pretty sure she's an X-Men getting involved here, which is also neat. Like, no one had to tie her in, but they're like, fuck it, dude, let's just tie her in. She's kind of Valkyrie-esque, you know what I mean? And so I'm really liking this book so far. I'm excited to see how it wraps up, especially if it has shit to do with Sentry. Jane Foster is obviously very cool as a protagonist here as well. The art is really great. And I might pick up I think we're getting like an actual Valkyries book, like once this event is over. I don't know what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to follow the Valkyries. I'm interested. I'm pretty interested. We follow like 3 or 4 throughout this book. And, my roommate, the co-host of the WandaVision podcast, he is a big Valkyries fan. He was picking up Jane Foster's book a while ago when it was coming out. And so if he gets that Valkyries book, I might just have to, because there's no way I could let my roommate know something about comics over me. All right, another one and done section. We got the DC non-Future State books, and here's the thing, guys. Future State is actually officially over. This episode is kind of belated in terms of relevancy, and so Future State's done for. We're in the Infinite Frontier now, but I think this is actually the last technical week of Future State, so maybe I can offer some overall thoughts on Future State. But now I'm getting a section ahead of myself. I'm talking non-Future State books. We got one this week. Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn, issue number 4, written by Collins and Murphy, drawn by Scalera, and colored by Dave Stewart. I'm always talking about Dave Stewart. It's like Dave Stewart, Matt Wilson, Guru Effects, Hi-Fi. These are like all the colors in the comic game. But shout out to him. So issue number, I might have said 4, I meant 5, and this is the penultimate issue of this little mini series. I've really been liking this tie-in. I guess you could kind of call it a tie-in. It's tying into Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight verse, if you will, the Murphy verse, as me and Trevor have been referring it to, which I just thought this was an interesting approach. We got the first White Knight book, and then we got the Curse of the White Knight. And now, it left Bruce in a very interesting place. And so now we're looking at just Harley. I love that. It's just fleshing out the universe a little bit. And speaking of flesh, gosh, it's like a podcast for serial killers. Red Hood was on the cover of this book, which if you have been reading this, you would know that there have been, I guess, a lot of references to the specific Jason Todd death in the family moment. And so I was really looking forward to / anticipating Jason Todd turning up somewhere in this book. And I gotta say, now that he has, my feelings on the matter are kind of lukewarm on how he came in. I'll get into that in a second. But the climax of the last issue resides here in a kind of a random way. Just some pretty generic, it felt like, I don't know, like when you're writing and you kind of write your characters into a corner and you can't write them out. I felt like we got that kind of conclusion here. I don't really know where all this like producer, I forget this girl's name, but the like villainous girl that's the like the the babysitter of like this cop guy. I don't really know where all this stuff is going, but that's okay, because we do get a bunch of other dope story shit here. And that is, this is awesome. Bruce Wayne, who's in jail because he was Batman. You know, he was charged on one count of being Batman. He literally jailbreaks, busts out of jail. It's a really dope scene. But I have to say, if you did this in real life, you would get caught so fucking hard. And I do have some questions about this, but let me fill out the scene a little more. So Bruce hears that Harley, her house catches fire, which is a nuts thing. I'll get into that in a second. And so he's like, I need to speak with Jason now. And my ears perk up because I'm like, wait, Jason? Like, what the fuck? Turns out that Red Hood is actually just the warden of this prison. I don't think he's in Arkham. Maybe he is. Maybe it's some sort of like teched up Arkham, but that is where Red Hood is. He's just sort of this warden. And I guess that felt just slightly lukewarm to me because I was like, that's it? He's just the warden? Okay. I don't know. It felt like there was a lot of build up to as like, who is Jason? What is he doing in this Murphyverse? And it's just like, oh, he's the warden of a prison. Cool. I don't know. I feel like he's going to be included more. He definitely is. But that being said, Bruce breaks out of jail by doing the classic, like, walks behind the door, locks Jason into his office. And then here's the part where I'm confused. For some reason, Jason just had his Red Hood attire, his whole gear, including the helmet, just sitting out there. And so I'm like, what the fuck? Is Jason still Red Hood, but also the warden of this jail? I don't know. It kind of made no sense, but it created a cool scene. Like, suspending all disbelief, it created a really cool scene because then Bruce, he just dons his Red Hood gear and everyone's like, see ya, Captain. And then he just walks out and goes to check on Harley. And then there he encounters Harvey Bullock. And that's where I have to say, like, Bullock was like, yeah, I won't tell. Let's just get you back in. You know, no one's going to say nothing. Let's not double your sentence. But I'm like, how the fuck would you even get back in there? And now Jason knows. Is Jason just not going to do anything? Jason seems like he fucking hates Batman right now. And I mean, let's be real. He always hates Batman. But still, I was just like, I don't know what the fuck's happening here. But as for what is going on with Harley, a crazy scene. She's at home. Her whole house fucking explodes, catches fire. And I have to say, the whole squad gets out. Don't get me wrong. Harley and her kids and her hyenas get out. But ... there is a casualty. R.I.P. the homie Lou. Lou the hyena seems to have passed. Well, we will see. It was a last page, right? Last page doesn't count, but it was a dope ending. It was a really sad ending. And you can kind of see it coming, but I thought he was going to make it. I honestly thought he was going to make it. So yet another really dope issue of this White Knight verse inclusion. I have to also shout out Matteo Scalera's art here is awesome. I love Matteo Scalera's art with Dave Stewart's colors. It's just so fresh. And I really like how Scalera looks like they're not, I don't want to say copying. They're using a similar like depth style, if you will, as Sean Gordon Murphy does. If you look in Sean Gordon Murphy's books, he has such an interesting way of like drawing with depth. Like he picks like really interesting angles for scenes. Oh, my cords are flying around here. He picks such interesting angles, and you can tell that it's almost like when Murphy was kind of organizing this tie-in book, they almost wanted to like keep that theme up. And I think Matteo Scalera does it really well. I guess I can't say I've read their other projects, so maybe that is just their thing. But if so, then they were a great pick because it keeps with the same artistic shit. And I'm excited to see how this issue wraps up, man. I mean, the next ep got teased a little bit. They give you like the pencils at the end of this book for the next book. And it does seem like we're actually going to get some moments of Under the Red Hood. I meant to say Death in the Family, or maybe some Under the Red Hood tie-ins. So super excited to see how that wraps up in the finale. All right. Just had to put the podcast recording on pause to go take a okay, my last section of the week. Super excited to talk these two books, and like I said, it's the end of Future State, and I'm talking DC Future State, and I only picked up 2 this week. You can tell as Future State started to now, there was a big decline. in the amount of books that I was picking up. And it's true. But I will say, I think these two specific books are probably the best books of the whole shebang, okay? I got to Dark Detective number 4 and Superman House of L issue number 1. I'm going to start with Dark Detective. Of course, this is one of those double up books. So the whole creative team here is Tamaki, Williamson, Mora, Molo Nogianis, and Belair. So I'll start with the first story, of course, the Dark Detective. And I got to say, this was a well done conclusion. However, it was kind of fast. Maybe y'all would agree with me. It was a bit of a fast conclusion. It felt like it left off somewhere that was kind of like, whoa, okay, holy shit, it's over? But of course, there were some significant things that happened in this book. We actually get something that's been anticipated for a while. Peacekeeper, issue number... Jesus. Yes, the first issue of Peacekeeper. No. Peacekeeper 01, the first Peacekeeper unit, he gets his identity revealed in this book, and not exactly like someone unmasks him or something. We actually just get to see him take off his own mask in private. And, you know, it was kind of I don't know, it's kind of a weird reveal, I guess you could say. I just think we were all expecting it would be someone, you know, be some past Gotham figure or something like that, but it wasn't. I mean, it seemed to just be some random guy. Now, my take on that, I actually like that. I think it's okay. Granted, when in past reviews, I remember saying, you know, I hope Peacekeeper 1 is a new character. And I mean, I guess I got what I wanted, but not exactly in the way that I wanted. Maybe beggars can't be choosers. I guess I was hoping that they actually would flesh out Peacekeeper 1 more as a character. And we get a little bit of it here, getting into just like what actually goes on here. I mean, it's just the epic conclusion of this crazy fight. Bruce pretty much goes toe to toe with Peacekeeper 1 and the Magistrate as a whole. And the fight, oh my God, amazing. I mean, Dan Mora could draw like a snail crawling, and it would be like exciting and fucking exhilarating. But there is a big conclusion here in the form of a big explosion. And so I am certainly on the side of wondering, what the fuck? So Bruce is dead? Not sure. But we get a little bit of Peacekeeper lore where he's saying, like, look, I'm going to do what you could never do, which is save Gotham. So I suppose you could say that was his kind of character arc, is that he, I don't know, thinks that the police state in Gotham was the way. Bruce obviously disagreed, but I don't know, man, that ending, like, it was a really cool ending, but that was the moment where I was like, and that's it? Like, and it's over? And I guess I'll get into this a little bit later, but it might not be over. I really did like the whole story with this random family that Bruce was with. It was very just grounding. You know what I mean? Like, it was just something simple, something that wasn't too just like out of this world or something that was totally unrelatable. Like, it was just very grounding. He was just living with this family deal with normal shit. I guess you could say. Maybe not quite normal. They're in this futuristic police state. But I think it's neat because that's going to be what Detective Comics is like in the upcoming, I don't know, Infinite Frontier, which is getting picked up by the same creative team, Tamaki and Mora. So it was a cool creative. I think it's going to be a creative connecting theme between these two issues. Between these two stories, Dark Detective and then the upcoming Detective Comics. And now getting into the Red Hood. I actually really liked this Red Hood mini story at the end here called Run, Red Hood, Run. And that's significant because I did not really care for the first one. I thought the first one was just kind of eh. Like, I was like, all right, it's just whatever. But I really did like this a bit more than the first. Some cool visual stuff going on here. Red Hood is rocking the original Red Hood, which I don't know what the whole deal is with that. I don't know why it also didn't go completely over his face. It went just down like to the bridge of his nose. Okay, I don't know. An interesting art choice, I guess. But as of the last issue, Red Hood is hunting masks. He's the mask hunter, like Judas type figure. And he gets a bounty placed on his head, where he's also shagging bruv with what was her name? Ravenger. And so there's this moment where she's like, you know what? It's a lot of money on your head. Girl could retire off that money. And then he's just gone. And I loved that part because then they flashed the title. So a great opening. And that I instantly was like, oh shit. Okay. Like I'm telling you, I really did like this last Red Hood part. We do get to meet, I think, a new character, White Rabbit. I guess she's a tie-in or a thematic tie-in with the Mad Hatter. And that makes sense, Alice in Wonderland, she follows the White Rabbit. Very cool. I really like all those writing points. But now she's dead. I guess the whole building that they were in got completely sprayed by the magistrate. So interesting. I hope we get to maybe see more of her. And I will say, though, I didn't care for one component of the story. When Red Hood gets this bounty placed on his head, he speaks with the magistrate and they're like, oh, it's a misunderstanding. We'll get that taken care of. But then he's like, wait, you're tracking this call? And then, the violence ensues. But then at the end of the story, they're like, oh, yeah, no, it was just a misunderstanding. And I guess I'm just like, what? It was just a misunderstanding? I don't know. Just seems weird to me. It just didn't seem like one at first. Okay, but the end here. So all the dust settles and Red Hood, all of a sudden he's just talking to someone in an alley. And I'm like, who the fuck was he talking to? And I have a theory. Low key, guys, I think it might have been Bruce. I could grab the comic, let me grab it. I honestly think it was Bruce though. Oh Jesus, where is it at? Just the dialogue was really weird. They did not specify who at all that it was. Let me read. I shall read an excerpt from this book. Yeah, he's just walking in the alley and then someone says, did you get it? And then he's like, he says like, oh, near death experience, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, good. The magistrate is being funded by someone high up. And this might help us track down who it is. There must be another reason they don't want anyone with masks in Gotham. And I mean, that's kind of it. Cause then Red Hood's just like, I gotta leave Gotham for a minute. And the guy's like, in a bit, like, let's finish up some work. And my theory is the only one who seems to want to take down the magistrate is Bruce, or I guess as so far as we met in the story. Maybe it's Nightwing. I'm not sure. I guess, it could be Nightwing. Could be, I guess, Tim Fox. I don't know. See, and that's my thing. This whole future state business in Gotham was so all over the place. It felt like it wanted to be connected, but it also didn't want to be connected at all. I'm very interested to see who that was. And just that cliffhanger alone, I think was well done. And it makes me want to actually pick up the Red Hood, like Gotham book that's going to be coming out soon. That's a future state book. Just to be like, okay, it seems like they're actually going to develop the future state universe. And maybe that's what I need as someone who has hated. I've been a hater on future state. So very interesting. I thought this was a great conclusion. Both stories included. Okay, so now the sleeper book. I see, whenever I say sleeper, I always think it's like a sleeper hit, like a book that's awesome, but no one really talking about it. But I think when some people refer to sleepers, they mean it's like not good. So maybe I'll specify the sleeper hit of the week, in my opinion, was the next future state book I'm talking about, which is Superman House of L, issue number 1, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, drawn by Godlewski, and colored by Al Taib. So this is another Philip Kennedy Johnson Superman book, very relevant for those that are in the know, which is that Philip Kennedy Johnson, PKJ, he's taken over the Superman mythos come March, as I've probably said like a dozen times on the podcast so far. And so this was a book I was definitely looking at like, okay, what is this going to be? I really liked his Superman story in Worlds of War. So I was dummy hyped for this book. And it seemed like a singular storybook, which again, that's been another one of my gripes with Future State is all these backup stories suck. I'm being harsh. Anyway, this book, a blast, just so fun. I mean, I think this was like a perfect one shot. We get a humongous war story here, tons of new characters, which I have a question mark in my notes. Like, are these new characters? I'm not exactly sure, but the pacing is awesome. There's great buildup here, and the story is really compelling. It's really compelling. It's all about this like war between the like Red King, as they keep calling him, which is just this evil fucking son of Superman named Pyros. No clue who this was. But then we meet all these other super characters. And this was my big question spinning out of this is like, am I supposed to know these people? Who are these people? I have no idea. There's so many of them, but they're all really cool. Don't get me wrong. There's a dude named Ronan. I don't think I've met him before. He does not appear to be a Superman I'm familiar with. Brandon, another Superman that's just in casual clothing. Interesting. And then there's a Tamaranian, if that's how you say it correct, like Starfire's race. There's some Tamarian people here. There was just a lot of people. And it felt like it was like, at first I was like, fuck, am I supposed to know who these people are? And then as it rolled on, I think my hunch is that it's one of those stories where no, you aren't supposed to know who they are, but you're supposed to just sort of like, I don't know, I guess live and accept with like, these are new characters. And it's almost like since it's future state, it's like we're stepping into the Superman mythos in the future. So of course there's progression. And I like how Philip Kennedy Johnson doesn't say, hey, let's just waste a bunch of time on exposition. Because that's not a good look either. Another very eye-raising thing in this book was Black Racer, one of the minis that I harped on as maybe feeling like the most dastardly irrelevant story of the whole future state is apparently now relevant as Black Racer is actually nuts in this book and kills Brainiac number 4. Which, oh my God, that was a sad ass scene. So sad, but I loved how Philip Kennedy Johnson handled it. Brainiac 4 is like, there's hope. I found him. There's hope. And we're all like, who the fuck's he talking about? And then he just gets, boom, he gets got. And I mean, everyone, that's like the crying moment where we're all like, oh my God, this is sad as hell. But I loved it. And then Pyro shows up. I'm like, who is this? Apparently he's Superman's son. Apparently Cersei is his mom or something. I couldn't tell you. An evil Superman, not his birth son, John Kent. Maybe it is. I don't fucking know. And then the ending here. I just tweeted about this, that this is not House of L. This is House of Crying, because the end here, I was geeking out at. I read this at like 1 a.m. last night and was like, ee! Like I was so beyond myself excited when the man shows up. I just clipped the fuck out of my mic, but the dude, Clark Kent Kal-El, shows up. Ugh, and it's awesome. He is gray though. He's quite old. But it was such an awesome ending with his interaction with Pyros. I mean, it's what you could ask from Superman's story. It's not like Superman shows up and just whoops some ass and lasers everybody dead. No, he shows up, he sees the humanity in the villain and offers them a path to redemption. It's like my heart is just like full of good feelings when I was reading this book. I just loved it. And I mean, if this is any sort of indication of what Philip Kennedy Johnson's Superman run is gonna look like, then I could not be more excited for it. I'm pretty sure issue 1 just came out yesterday. So can't wait to fucking get caught up, honestly. This was a really interesting one shot, and it seemed to be referencing Worlds of War, because I think Superman essentially offers Pyros like, dude, this world needs a Superman. You can be that Superman. And then I love the line where he's like, I'm going to show you the path to become what I could only dream to be, which is like, oh my God, like, I can't anymore. This book was so great. I love Philip Kennedy Johnson's take on Superman. It's so relevant. I mean, it is relevant, but I meant to say reverent. He just seems to give a big ass fuck about Superman and about what he is. So loved that book. It was so badass. I mean, I'm sure you've read it. It's an old book by now, but Future State, I think it wrapped up decently with these 2 books.
Well, this was fun.
Until next time.
All right, now the second to last feature of the show. I'm giving my top 5 of the week. Thank you guys so much for listening to all those dumbass reviews. I was hoping this episode would be short, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna. I gotta keep working on my notes and my brevity. Brevity is the soul of wit, and I have no wit. Okay, all right, top 5. Here we go. There will be a connecting theme throughout this, but there's also some surprises in here, okay? So number 5, I'm throwing it to Wolverine issue number 10. Loved this story. I love where it's been going. And I mean, the Adam Kubert art was going to nail it for me. Number 4, I'm throwing it to X-Men issue number 18. Had to. I mean, I was so excited for this book, so I had to give it some cred, and it was a great follow-up. So love that. Amazing art as well. Man, and you know, the art this week was just killer. It's pretty much the reason I picked all these books. For number 3, I'm going with Department of Truth issue number 6. Obviously, the story here is amazing as well. But I loved the art switch up, and I thought it was just such a memorable book. You know what I mean? And yet another highly regarded mention of the art here. I'm giving number 2, two moons. Jesus Christ. I'm giving number 2, Two Moons, issue number 2. No, issue number 1. Loved this book. I was so excited for it, and I'm not seeing enough hype for it. So guys, come on, pump it up, read it. It's delicious. It's delicious. It's amazing. It's a really good book. And number 1, I just spoke on this book, so maybe some of y'all are going to roll your eyes, or maybe you're just going to be like, oh, hell yeah, I knew he was going to say that. Number 1, Superman House of L, issue number 1. Just an awesome book. Just loved it from head to toe. You know, those one-shot stories are always going to tickle my fancy because I'm like, I can love this book any day of the week. So great book. Can't wait to see what Philip Kennedy Johnson does next month or this month or whenever he comes out with Superman. And now for my what the hell is coming out next week. Some unfortunate news. It is not going to be as big of an indie week. I'm sorry, my indie friends, but there's something in there. I'm going to be talking about Nocterra issue number 1. I'm holding all these books right now. I'll get the paper flip. Hell yeah. So I'm going to be talking Nocterra number 1. I'm super pumped to read that. Big DC week next week because we get the beginning of Infinite Frontier. And you know what that means? We get an Infinite Frontier issue number 0 book, kicking everything off. Then the return of Batman by James Tynion with 106. And then some, I guess this is out of continuity at this point, but Man-Bat issue number 2. I really liked the first issue. And then Swamp Thing issue number 1 of 10. I didn't realize it'd be a 10-parter, but it is what it is. And then another one I picked up, this was sort of random. I picked up Suicide Squad issue number 1. Even though I did not care for the Future State Super's Suicide Squad, I thought it was interesting. And you know what it is? Trevor picked it up. So I was like, you know what, dude, I got to pick it up because you can't know something I don't. And then Marvel books, we got 3. One King in Black, Thunderbolts issue number 3. And then a controversial book, Avengers issue number 43, the Enter the Phoenix issue number 4 or part number 4. And then this one's really anticipated. I can't wait to check this one out. Peach Momoko's Demon Days X-Men issue number 1. Very pumped for that. It might be the first book I have to grab or might have to read. Maybe after the Future State. We will see. Nocterra is another first pick. So thank you guys for listening, my friends. Thank you. I'm doing a big stretch. Yes, men, women, and NBs, all of you. Thank you for listening. Y'all are amazing. Can't believe you would stick through this rambling garbage. I'm going to be hopefully getting more caught up here in the next few weeks, but I'm very grateful for how patient y'all are with me. I've been going through a lot lately in my personal life, and so it means a lot that at least some of y'all are coming back and checking out my thoughts on some dumbass comics. The comics aren't dumb, but my thoughts are. Anyway, I will not take up more of your time. Please like, subscribe. It all helps the channel a whole ton. It's super great. If you feel extra generous, you can leave me a rating on Podchaser or share the show. Tell a friend about the show. That is also an extremely helpful way to help the channel. So thank you guys. I will catch y'all in the next week with EP 29 and have a wonderful week, my friends. See ya.